So I know I can't be the only person who gets like really frustrated when someone buys something for you or does something for you with a certain expectation of how you will react. I find that to be so rude and like borderline disrespectful, but it's such an awkward situation to be in because the other person is like excited and expecting you to be like in a positive mood about them doing that thing. But on my end, I'm like, I literally didn't ask for this. I don't want this. And you put me in this really awkward position where I have to pretend like I do.
You know how I feel. Why would you say that? Like, you put me in such an uncomfortable situation. Like, you know I'm not happy. You know I'm trying to see if it'll work out here, and I know that it's not.
It really bothers me, and I know I can't be the only one because there are staggering statistics about how many people receive unwanted gifts every year. And maybe some people are better at like faking that they were happy to receive that thing, better at doing that than I am, but I don't want to do that because I don't want to enable that behavior. And I think we should really bring that to more people's attention because what that means is things are either piling up in our landfills or piling up in our homes and in our closets. We have guilt about like wanting to get rid of that thing. There's all this weird emotional tension around it. And then there is the burden of having to figure out what to do with that item if you don't want it to just sit around or go to waste. You basically just gave someone a chore. And like we should start presenting that. We should start presenting what is happening that way instead of like what I feel is currently happening with unwanted gifts, which is that you're just ungrateful when you're not appreciative of receiving it. And I reject that. I reject that notion very strongly. And so I'm making this video for the people who think that they have to buy someone else something, that they feel obligated to do that, and they buy something even though you don't want it. In 2019, Americans spent around $15.2 billion on unwanted holiday gifts. And holiday gifts are returned at a much higher rate than regular purchases, up to 35% for e-commerce shops, compared to a regular 16%. And the National Retail Federation finds that around 17.8% of merchandise sold during the holiday season will be returned, which equates to about 1 in every 5 gifts. And as someone who has dumpster dived on this channel before, you can go see videos of me going through dumpsters of returns from all sorts of different retailers. They often get thrown out. They just literally get sent to landfill because the effort and money it would take to like restock those items and make sure they didn't have any issues that couldn't make them be able to be restocked. A lot of times things are no longer in season and even able to be sold. Like a lot of different retailers sell certain things for certain periods of time. And with the turnover of fast fashion and things like fast home decor, fast everything these days, honestly. Those collections that they were bought from, by the time they're returned, they're not even on the shelves anymore. So they literally throw them away, claim them as losses on their taxes, which means they get to recoup some of that money. They're incentivized to do this, all the while piling up in our landfills. The resources used to create those goods are wasted, and the impacts that they had with the energy used, the cotton grown, the oil used to extract to be made into plastic, to be shipped all over the world, like the impact cannot be understated. When you buy someone an unwanted gift, you are not only putting this weird emotional burden on them, giving them this chore of either having to return it or go donate it or store it somewhere or figure out what to do with it, you are also impacting the planet. And I think that we need to talk about that more. And it frustrates me. So I wanted to talk about a few of the specific things that I think you shouldn't be buying this holiday season. At the very top of the list of gifts you should not buy are gifts that no one has expressed that they wanted at all. And that can be like a whole separate category of its own, I guess. Gifts you shouldn't buy are gifts that you feel like are obligatory. I feel like we really need to be having more of a conversation about this weird habit that we have, that people have these expectations that we should be buying them something or that someone else should be buying me something. Again, like I just feel like we're getting to the point in society where we should be having more conversations and communications. More of us are in therapy than I feel like ever before because of the normalization of mental health care. And so that's a huge thing that my therapist has taught me, is that aligning expectations is like the key to having a lot less conflict and stress in your life in general. And so aligning everyone's expectations with like, we actually don't have to do obligatory gifts if there's not something specific that like I want or that you thought of me and like went out of your way to get it because you knew it would add value to my life. We just actually don't need to do the obligatory gifts. I encourage you to have more of those conversations this holiday season. Another category of gifts that I feel like is so unique to the last like few years on the internet are ads that are following you around the internet. Companies dump so much money into marketing during this time of year because they know that you feel like you are obliged to buy people's stuff. They know that consumerism ramps up to an all-time high during this time of year, and they are able to track your browsing history. They're able to track your searches on the internet. They're able to track your purchases and things that you're interested in and follow you around the internet. As someone who is a former, like very much had a dependency on shopping for dopamine, it becomes really hard to avoid these things. And I feel like it's a whole category to be aware of during the holiday season, that if you've done any of those things and things are following you around the internet, that you might feel like you need to buy them because they might work out for someone in your life to gift to them. I would just like to caution you that just because you are seeing something a lot does not mean that you need to buy it, and especially doesn't mean that that other person is going to want it or use it or need it, etc. Don't do it. A figurine of something just because someone likes it. When I was a kid, I feel like the loss of like hobbies and interests and values, and I don't know how to describe it, but I feel like it wasn't modeled to me that people had like interests and hobbies and those sort of things. Instead, I knew that my mom had themes in different rooms of her house. I don't really know what the purpose of them were, but her kitchen was chicken themed. And so every time it would come time to like buy her something, I didn't really know a lot about what her interests or her hobbies were, but I knew that her kitchen was chicken themed, and so my gift to her often was a little figurine of a chicken. And I also experienced this as a kid because I was really into dolphins when I was younger, and so I would often just receive figurines of dolphins for my, you know, gifts. And then I had this whole entertainment center full of dolphin figurines and never really felt like there was a lot of thought put into those things, and they're definitely not even things I still have to this day. So if someone is just like really into something and it's not really attached to like their interests or their hobbies or their values, I feel like buying it just because you know they have a room that is themed a certain way, it's a gift that really just kind of sits around and collects dust and doesn't have a lot of meaning behind it. And I feel like it shouldn't be this like knee-jerk thing that's like, oh, I have to buy a gift for this person and I know they like cats, so I'm gonna buy something that has a cat on it. If you're buying something because of a situation like that, there's probably a better gift to be given, or we can align expectations and not do the gifts at all, like I said. And I also feel like a lot of these things, if they're not like homemade and really thoughtful, can just feel like they're really personal to you, because if I'm putting decor in my home, like it's gonna be a long shot that you found something that I am going to be like putting on my wall and leaving there for years, which is kind of the goal with the house with me now. If you bought me a dolphin figurine now, it's probably not gonna be put up in my home. That can be said with a lot of different categories of gifts, which clothing is definitely one of those for me. I'm so particular about the clothing that I buy that I'm trying to curate pieces that I plan to keep for at least 5 to 10 years. And I don't feel like if you just saw something at the store and you bought it because it felt like me, I don't feel like it's something that I'm actually going to be able to integrate into the wardrobe that I am consciously building. And I feel like that can be said for a lot of people, not always because everybody is consciously building their wardrobes, just because we all have things that like we do like and we don't like. And especially I feel like as we get past like our early 20s, we're a lot more particular about what we want to wear. And I just don't think like buying someone clothing that they haven't expressed that they wanted, or you haven't seen them wear, or you don't know that they like have been wanting and is on their wish list. I just think clothing is not, for most people, a good category to buy something for them in. And holiday specific stuff, it drives me mad. It makes me so frustrated when I get a gift that is for the season that they're gifting it to me, and it's like today is the day that that season ends, and now I have to keep track of this for a whole other year to even make use of it. At the rate that like new home decor is coming out, and there are even trends from year to year with what home decor looks like for different seasons, I just, like, holiday pajamas bother me so much because you can really only wear them for a short period of the year, and I can't even wear them for a whole other year from now. I just, personally, I really think that seasonal decor, seasonal clothing is not something you should be gifting to people. I I hate a novelty or a gag gift. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate the normalization of buying something for someone to open and laugh at for like 2 seconds, and then it literally serves no purpose after that. The process those things have to go through to be extracted from the planet and then manufactured into different parts and then shipped all around the planet using fossil fuels and then manufactured into more things and then packaged and then shipped again, and then you're putting wrapping paper on it. Like, I hate it. I hate the idea of gag gifts being something that is bought and then literally serves no purpose after it's been opened. It makes me so angry. Denormalize joke gag gifts that literally will go into the trash as soon as you're done with them. It makes me so angry. So I think drink, consumable food, items like that are easily giftable if you at least know a little bit about the person. Because if someone brings a bottle of wine into my house as like a gift when I invite them over to a party, well, that's not gonna work because I don't drink. Madison and I are sober. So, you know, you have to know someone at least on a certain level to be able to gift that to them. And when it comes to food, there are like dietary restrictions, whether it be by choice or by allergy or those sort of things. I feel like it can be done right if it's more thoughtful and if you at least know a little bit about the person. Like, you can do this in a right way. I have done this in a way that like people have enjoyed. I do it with when I do like a little like consumable combo with like a thrifted gift. Like, I've given nice wine holders with a nice bottle of wine. I have given gifts to my friends who are vegan, a nice like vegan cheese tray. I have done things like that. I just think it's a little less easy to do when you don't know the person. And so that's kind of when all of this gets tricky, right? When you're buying something out of obligation, or you're buying something, yeah, basically that. If you don't know someone all that well and you're buying something out of obligation, that's when these things become a problem. But really just buying anything out of obligation for someone you don't really know and you don't know what they want is wasteful. It just is. And it bothers me. I also think some of the worst gifts, and this is evident by what is on thrift store shelves, they will be popping off after Christmas. Let me tell you, single-use appliances. I don't mean appliances that can only be used once. I mean appliances that only serve one purpose. But if you buy me a popcorn maker, I'm going to be angry. You know why? Because I have a microwave and I have a stovetop, and I don't need another appliance to be stored in my home. I don't need another appliance to be made and like, you know, take up resources from the planet. I don't want to store it is really, really the answer here. I don't want to store a popcorn maker because I already have a microwave and a stove. So, and these are the categories, again, that like I have received that frustrate me that I want to make this video about, but I would love to hear if there are things that you've gotten that should be added to this list, and maybe I'll make a whole list about this so that we can reshare it on Instagram and like give a little nudge to the people who are buying those things. But if all else fails and you can't, you know, you can't figure something out that's outside of these categories, I made this little graphic a couple years ago that will help you pick out gifts and see if it's a good one or a bad one, or if it's going to end up getting, you know, thrown away. So the first question to ask yourself is always, will this end up as a thrift store donation or returned or taking up dust in someone's closet or getting thrown away? Do they have something similar? In some cases, I think this question is like one that can be answered with a yes, but I'm buying them a better quality, longer lasting version of it. So if that is your intention, you ask this question, you answer it in a meaningful way, I think it's fine. Another one is like, is this practical or is it just trendy? I do feel like not every gift ever has to be super practical. That's my preference for gifts. If you're watching this and you're buying me a gift, practical is the way to my heart. But if you're buying something just because it's trendy and it's going to get thrown out, maybe not next month, but probably next year, probably don't buy it. Am I buying this as an impulse while browsing? I find that this is a lot of the gifts I get from my family is they were out shopping just because I come from a family of people who have dopamine seeking brains and they use shopping to fulfill that, but they don't know that because they're not in therapy. But they end up buying me things because they're just out shopping and they say they find something that just looks like me. That is not a reason to buy someone something. And I personally don't like when people do that. So basically the question is, are you buying this gift with intention or are you just buying it because you saw it? Setting intentions with people and setting expectations are the most important things. And if you're buying this not because you want to or because you need to, but because you feel obligated to, I really just don't think that's a good enough reason to be buying something and have that impact on the person you're giving it to, the relationship between you two, and the earth, as we talked about. Well, I hope this video gave you some food for thought during the most wasteful time of the year, and maybe you send this to someone who needs to see this video. Do you know someone who needs to hear this? Did someone send this to you and you watched all the way through the end? Probably give it a thumbs up. I bet I helped you out a lot. Remember, until next time, you cannot do all the good that the world needs, but the world needs all the good that you can do. Bye, guys.